Welcome to the ADNA Presents. This is Roy Samuelson, and today I'm joined by Yvonne Mastromano, musician, former traffic lady of Richmond, and now the powerhouse CEO behind Virginia Voice, which is a nonprofit expanding access to news and live audio description for people who are blind or print disabled. With her rich background in the arts, broadcast TV, and nonprofit leadership, Yvonne brings heart, vision, and a deep commitment to connection through voice. She's blending her love of storytelling, accessibility, and community to make sure no one is left out of the conversation. Our conversation that we had one-on-one, I wish we would have recorded it so that we could share it with everyone. So this is our makeup. Can't wait for you to hear her journey. Thank you for joining us, Yvonne.
Oh, thank you, Roy. I am honored to have been invited to be on your podcast. I am a bit of a super fan, I will admit. I listen to some of your podcasts and they're brilliant. I just love it.
I'm so glad that we're adding to the brilliance with you. Thank you for joining. I know it's so shameless and I am not apologizing. What do you love about audio description?
I love audio description for many reasons, but the chief reason is because I love the arts.
Yeah.
I love what the arts does, I think that's the right tense, for my soul. I walk into a theater and I just feel so alive. Wow, I get to be here. I get to see people acting but convincing me that they are that character in that play because of the way they act, because of the way they move on stage, because of their costumes, because of the blocking, because of so many things that I think that it's easy to forget can go wrong. It's live. It's live theater. And I think we can forget that. And if you are without vision, whether you're blind or low vision, or you have another disability that prevents you from focusing and being able to take in all of the majesty that is the arts, then you don't get to have that beauty inside of you. I can't imagine, for example, seeing the Nutcracker and not seeing the tulle that the little fairies wear. It's just so many things. And so I love what audio description does to allow everyone be included in that richness. And of course, audio description brings many things to life. There are many movies. I'm a rom-com person, but I love animation. And you can't imagine seeing or listening to The Incredibles or something and not seeing the Elastilady stretch. And without audio description, you're missing all of that goes into creating that movie or that play or that sports event or museum exhibit, whatever it is. And so that's what I really love about audio description. It brings us all together. And if I might add one more thing, I do think that the arts and all of those different things, they bring people together in a very special way. So if I see someone walking down the street and they have a cane, I honestly, and certainly before I got this job, but I honestly I'm probably going to focus on the cane. And that person might walk past me. I can't tell you what they were wearing or who they were. Were they tall? Were they short? I probably can't answer those kinds of questions. The kind of data I take in with just meeting someone. But when I'm sitting in a theater, or whether it's a movie theater or it's live theater, and I'm sitting next to someone who might have a cane, I don't even notice that. All I notice is that we have this common love for arts or for whatever that particular genre is. And I think audio description brings people together in a very special way.
When you talk about that included in that sense of community of sitting next to someone in the theater, that soul, that story that you started with talking about really seems to anchor it in. I'm thinking also about how you said about how theater, maybe even live events, they're literally live. They're happening right now. And you brought up your favorites of rom-com and animation for film and TV. Let me see if we can weave this together. When you think about the work that you do for Virginia Voice, which is specifically in the live arts, whether it's museums or a play or musical, and you think about some differences and some similarities between film and TV and the work that you do. You've already mentioned the fact that it's live, and so there's all these things that might go differently or unexpectedly. Is there anything else that you can think of that might be different or maybe some similarities between film and TV and the work that you do for Virginia Voice?
I think the similarities have to do with the fact that it is a pretend story for the most part. And we tell real stories in what we do. Let me go at it from the perspective of how many things have I done in my life? The more I talk about this stuff, the more I realize someone would walk away and go, wow, she's really old. Anyway, but I did some acting right out of college, regional theater type stuff. And the thing I really enjoyed about it the most, I think, was that I got to be somebody else. Whatever my life issues were or whatever was going on, for a little bit of time, I got to disappear into someone else's life, the character's life. And I think that's what would be a really strong similarity between live theater and television and film. And that is that you're getting to enjoy this life that is being portrayed. I am a bit of a super fan of NCIS in all of its iterations, especially Los Angeles. And you can get caught up, right? The characters are so well done. If the casting is done well, you get to know those characters in such a way that you feel akin with them. And I think it's the same thing in live theater. We recently saw Loving v. Virginia, and we audio described it. And what an amazing story, a real story. And it was adapted into a libretto, and it was just marvelously done. And but the characters, I felt myself becoming familiar, let's say, with each character and what part they played. And it gets so real that I don't know if this ever happened to you, Roy, but I might think to myself, gosh, if I ever saw that person in real life, I would just tell them what I think of them if I don't like the character. And that's that fantasy land you can sneak into for a moment. And everyone needs that, I feel like. Everyone needs an escape. It's harmless. It's an appreciation of the talent that's being displayed. And it's pretty cool in that way to me. And that's the strongest similarity I can think of.
That's beautiful. I'm thinking about that disappearing, that escape and fantasy appreciation. Let's go back to what you just said about that talking to that character and tell him what's for. That way that fantasy comes into real life. I'm thinking about a soap star friend of mine. This is a conversation we had years ago where he had a lot of friends who were film celebrities. And they were talking about the difference between soap stars and film celebrities. And he made this incredible point, and I'm wondering if you can relate to this in the work that you do. He said that the film stars, because they're most often in an open, dark auditorium and the screen is far away, that when people encounter that celebrity on film, it's this hushed tone and it's separated. It's really far away. It's like an observational appreciation that's so far away. But because soap stars, in his words, are invited into the living rooms at the time, everyone was watching inside their homes on a daily basis, that there's an intimacy that happens. I was on a soap opera digest tour for several years where the soap stars would come on stage in malls of all places, and we'd reenact a scene from a soap scene and have audiences play with these actors. And the comfort that everyone had where they were touching each other's arms and there was a closeness. I'm wondering about your experience with Virginia Voice, if you also sense that, not distance, but does this relate at all with your experience?
It does. And I'm going to go back a little further and then I'll come forward. So when I was on television, I was the traffic lady. Like literally, that's what people called me. I'm not sure they remembered my name because I did the traffic. I was the first person in this market to do live traffic. And when I say live traffic, I was out on the highways and byways dodging cars.
Oh, wow.
And people For example, one time I went to VCU Health, this hospital downtown, for an appointment, and this woman saw me getting into an elevator. She threw the doors open and literally picked me up off the floor, hugging me.
Oh my goodness.
And so I so relate to that because
Uh-huh.
you're very approachable. You're in a small to medium market. They see you every single morning while they're having their coffee or getting ready for work or whatever. And they are in your living room or your bedroom. And there is this sort of familiarity that is, you cross a line somewhere. I can tell you 1,000 stories like that. So I get that. I never thought about that with soap operas and the idea of that. That makes total sense to me, though.
It's a different
And
kind of intimacy, right?
it really is. And it is a bit far off. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like way over there. They're way over there on the screen. And I think in a theater, it can be the same. Now, the difference is that because we're in this market that's not DC, right? And it's not a bigger city, then a lot of times when we come out of the theater and we're back at our Virginia Voice desk to receive the equipment we've loaned to the listeners, you see the actors. They've already changed and they're coming out and they're walking away. And so that's even more of an intimacy, if you will,
Yeah.
where that would never happen, obviously, at a movie theater. And so I get that. That is very different. I will say this. I went to a movie 100 years ago, or so it feels. But we all went because one of the folks in the movie was actually a friend. So this was the first speaking part he had in a major film, and it was Blair Underwood. It was a Blair Underwood film. And after we finished, I was on television at the time. I got up and I went out into the lobby, and this person comes up to me and says, "Hey, you did a great job." I thought, oh, they're talking about what I do, the traffic thing. Okay, thank you. And then another person. And then finally someone comes up and says it again. And I'm like, you mean you watched the traffic? No, in the movie. Weren't you the lady? And I'm like, what? So they thought, and I don't know if it's because of that line. I don't know.
Huh.
I just know that it was an interesting part. And they were confusing me as being the person in it. But it's that same sort of, I think that's because, again, of the size of the market and because we knew this other guy who was from Richmond, maybe.
Hmm.
But I get the comparison. And I think that, to answer your question, I think from the standpoint of live audio description, any describer would be greatly complimented if, because of their description, that brought a familiarity to that character or what was going on stage. That would be very cool.
You talk
Because
about,
that brings the whole experience together.
yeah. And with that familiarity and as that experience is brought together, that I can't help but go back to connection, that sense of inclusion, that richness of the community, of being able to be a part of the story, that serves something. And I'm curious what your approach is when it comes to Virginia Voice, as far as making that experience more than just, here's what it looks like. I don't know you very well, but I can only speculate that this is not just the facts where it's, here's what this looks like, and this is what this person looks like, that there's an investment to keep that connection, especially with your acting background and your ability to connect with audiences, even when you're given the traffic, that there is something else that is, maybe there's no words for it, but let's try. Is there something that Virginia Voice brings to the audio description in the training that you do, in your own work in doing audio description, that is more than just, here's what the visuals look like?
Yes. We encourage our describers to use what we call vivid words. Now, description should not be an interpretation, right? A person who has vision loss they're intelligent, okay? They can make their own determinations, but those descriptions should not lack the heart, that intimacy of what's going on stage. I'll give you an example, maybe a strange example, but we audio described a baseball game a couple weeks ago, and I heard the describer say, after she described the play and so on, she goes, "Oh, and by the way, the wind blowing from the left or west is going to help this particular batter because they're left-handed. And my mind was blown. I thought, this is so amazing to have thought of that. That means that she was in a press booth. So she had to have thought about that as she was coming in. And one of the things we're adding to all of our descriptions is adding the experience before you sit in your seat. So you're walking through the lobby and it's really crowded. You're walking through the lobby of an opera, which used to be entirely long gowns and fancy clothes, but now in 2025, you might have someone in jeans and a t-shirt, someone else in a long gown, someone else in what looks like pajamas. The scene has changed, and that adds to the experience of going to the opera in this day, so that someone listening doesn't have to make assumptions. They sit down. What does the theater look like? Is it old? Is it a historic theater? That might be something that a companion or a friend, a family, whatever member would have shared. We've been to this theater, Joe. You remember, it has all of these wonderful finials or whatever it is. And so we should make that part of our pre-show. Used to be simply the stage looks like a playbill. You know, the stage looks like this, the background on the actors, there's going to be furniture, and it's going to look like this for the first act, and we'll do this again for the second. But it should also include, what does it look like around you? So yes, I think that our describers do a great job of transferring that from our training, and it's not quite impassioned. It's not quite that far, but it certainly has to do with that person. I'm asking them, don't leave out who you are. You bring value to this experience that is uniquely you. And that is very important to share with the listener, because they want to know who you are. The same way as our listeners to our radio reading service. They love that we have 170 different voices, and they have their favorite audio describers. And it has to do more than with the tenor of their voice.
Thinking about that shift that happened from the playbill style to that immersive experience of the entire theater and the audience and such, I can hear that Virginia Voice has growth, that as you adapt and learn, you recognize there's more things that the audience wants, and there's a way to serve the audience in a way that is incredibly respectful, but also gives them that extra connection that sighted people have. When you think about some other aspects of Virginia Voice, maybe you're in the middle of a process right now of the next growth. Is there something that you could share publicly that you're really happy about the direction you're going with Virginia Voice, or maybe another recent example of something that's changed in how you approach your business?
Yes, we have an upcoming event, and it's so new. I'm not sure it's been done in Virginia. It's called Guide and Stride. It's a guided walk run, and we encourage people to come out and walk, run, roll, stroll, whatever feels good. But to get out of the house, get involved with the community in fresh air, in a light environment where you can walk a quarter of the way around that quarter-mile track, or you can walk the whole track, you can run, whatever you prefer to do. But what we've added to the event is audio description. So when we have it all set up at 8:45, we're going to do the warm-up. Right before the warm-up, our head of audio description, Sherilyn, she's going to audio describe the track and the entire setting. It's at a school, a private school. It's a beautiful track. And she's going to lay it out so everyone knows where they are and what it looks like. And then we're going to do the warm-up, and then we're going to start the walk run at 9 a.m. And so being able to bring audio description to that type of event, I really think is part of how we're growing. We're also going to be doing garden tours at a really cool location, Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden, and also at Agecroft Hall, which is a local garden. It's really a museum with a historic house and garden. And so those are also some things. I think what we're trying to do there under the category of growth is to make sure that we're including a wide variety of opportunities, because not everybody wants to go to the opera. Not everybody wants to go to a baseball game. I always tell the team, let's not create things that we like. That sounds okay, sounds right. But we need to make sure our listeners want to participate in that. So we have an annual survey. We also survey after every single event. So we can try to get our finger on the pulse of what our current listeners want, as well as looking into the future as our listeners change. Because as we move forward, the folks we're serving, 85% of whom are 65 and over, that group is going to completely transform. And ChatGPT synthetic voices may become a part of what we do because it's so second hand to folks who are in their 30s, 40s, or 50s right now. So those are some things we're planning on. But right now, our growth in live audio description and recorded audio description is really centered on what can we do to grow the variety of what we do and the quality of what we do. Just finished an audio description of a brand new exhibit at a local museum. It took, something like 60 hours between writing it, editing it, recording it, and then recording the audio, analyzing the audio, back and forth with the museum. Is this what you had in mind? So they're big projects, they're deep dives, but that's the kind of thing we want to do. If I could have my way, Roy, and if you knew me, that is going to happen over time. It'll take a lot of time. Every single thing, and actually Stevie Wonder has a quote like this. We should have a goal. This is definitely not a quote. This is a paraphrase, but everything, we should have it that everything is accessible for everyone. It's much more beautifully put by Stevie Wonder, but we actually have it on our website. And that's our goal. Everything should be accessible. And the hard part right now is getting into universities and schools. That's the hard part right now. We just need the right pilot, if you will, the right test market, so that we can convince schools that this is good, it's worth it, and it can help your students in such a remarkable way.
That's great. I can imagine those surveys that you've been conducting over the years can help contribute to that in a measurable way. And I'd also imagine that as you approach the schools, that storytelling, let's bring it back to what we first started talking about, the importance of story, the soul of those stories that's being shared, that there's something to the story of audio description. I'm not sure if that resonates with you, but if it does, anything that's popping up for you as far as when you approach the schools, are the stories that you're sharing with the schools, can you see that being an impact beyond just the measurable survey results?
Absolutely. You have to personalize it. You have to bring it home to a single experience so that school administrator who has no knowledge and no contact with anyone in that circumstance understands Mary's life, her lived experience, and then it becomes important. And that's why we are working with a group of students right now from the charter school here in Richmond, and they are reading books. And they're doing it so that their classmate who happens to be blind can have access to those books. But more importantly, the classmate who's blind is the one who started the project. She wanted her classmates to understand her lived experience. And we can bring those stories to that school administrator and say, this is what we're doing, and this is why it's important, because Mary deserves access. She deserves to have the same access and life that her sighted peers have. There's no reason why that shouldn't be the case. We don't think about this. We don't even second guess it when we think about, heard this morning, the slogan was, "No kid left behind." I don't know if you remember that. We've gone past that a bit. but no person should be left behind. If we say we're family focused, if we say that we care about community, which I believe we do in general, then community is everyone. It's not just the people we select.
What great sentiments. It's so beautiful. Like every time that you've said something, it's mic drop after mic drop. Is there something that we haven't covered yet that you'd love to share with our audience?
Audio description is not something done for people who are less fortunate. It's not done as a crutch. It's not done because we feel sorry for them. It's done because it's our responsibility. No one should feel as though it's not their responsibility. The only way we can fix the silos, fix being separated in our own community, is to bring people together so that we can share in the strengths, the talents, and the beauty that each of us has. And then we can grow a community, even economically. Because when we leave people out, the social determinants of health are much more significant than we give them credit. If Mary is sitting in her home in the dark, she has nobody and no one, then when Mary gets diabetes and she loses her sight because she has no health care, and Mary ends up in an emergency room, it's not Mary's fault. It's because we let her down. Mary can't talk to someone who's not listening. So accessibility, which is there anything more perfect a definition of accessibility than audio description? I don't think so. When we don't provide audio description, we're letting her down. When we provide it, we're not feeling sorry for her. We're doing it because it's our responsibility.
Thank you for that clarity. Yvonne, how can we follow you? Social media, your company, websites? Tell us everything.
Yeah. Our website is virginiavoice.org. Our social media on Facebook is just Virginia Voice. On Instagram, it's at Virginia Voice, all lowercase, no punctuation, INC. On LinkedIn, we are Virginia Voice. And love to have you follow us. Because we're on Facebook, we also are on Threads, of course. And follow, share, and reach out. Please do reach out at ymastromano@virginiavoice.org. I'd love to hear from you and communicate with you and hear your thoughts. We don't know how to do everything right. We're just really trying hard.
Thanks so much for joining us, Yvonne.
No, thank you, Roy. I really appreciate the opportunity.